So it shouldn't be anything new, but you've been thinking. Been
I've been thinking.
thinking for a few years now.
Yes, and I must say I had quite an interesting exchange with one of the people that I send it to, who responded on my last one
Hmm.
um, with quite a bit of comment, and that kind of ended up being a couple of emails back and forth,
Okay.
which which is quite nice. That's I'm hoping for more of that.
Yeah.
We'll see. So
Which
is
comments
nice.
sparked their interest?
Well, they kind of commented on every one of them. Some was just yes, I agree with that, and then there
Okay.
were a couple. Um, the one about IQ,
Yes.
um, that caused a bit of a debate
Okay.
because the original comment had too much of a uh, we must help wherever we can kind of vibe to it, which I obviously pushed back on.
Yeah.
Uh, but with with hopefully enough clarity so that my point can be better understood.
Mm-hmm.
Because I honestly think that this concept or idea that we don't talk about IQ or abilities, everybody can become whatever they want to become.
Mm-hmm.
And then so many people end up without jobs. Um, rather than understanding what people's capacity or capabilities are
Mm-hmm.
and helping them find something where they can excel at.
Yeah.
Because if you excel at something, it doesn't mean that you can't from there go on and do something else. So, in other words, it doesn't mean that if you, I don't know, I'm going to use an example that I think will work well. So you can't start. There's nothing that says that you can't start off as an electrician and end
Mm-hmm.
up being an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and I think that there are a whole bunch of others kind of like along those lines. And I think if you start at that, so let's say for example, if you start as a bricklayer and you end up as an architect, well, don't you think you'll be a better architect because you understand
Yeah.
all of the different elements and so on that go into the building process?
Interesting. I started reading 12 Rules for Life while I was on
Okay.
holiday, and I've just read the chapter on compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. Um, and I think he
Yeah.
goes a little bit into that, people are good at different things, and you should focus on the things that you're good at, and not
Yes.
compare yourself to what, I don't know, Billy Big Balls over
Correct.
there is doing. Yeah.
And that's exactly it. But if, if you think about it, I mean, who aspires? I don't know. Very few people aspires to become bricklayers and builders and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like more the kind of things that you, I don't know, fall into. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that people don't end up enjoying it or loving it or,
Making good money
having,
from it.
making good money
Yeah.
and wonderful careers out of
Yeah.
it. But if you ask any 12, 15-year old,
What do
what
you
do
want
they
to be?
want to be? Yeah, they
An
are going to
astronaut,
say,
a
no,
lawyer,
no, they don't say that anymore.
uh, an influencer.
That is, yes, a YouTuber
Yeah.
or an influencer. Those have taken over now from astronauts. And
Yeah.
that means that we're in trouble.
Yeah. That's a good
We
point.
are in serious trouble.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that was kind of like a little bit of a back and forth in the email exchange
Mm-hmm.
about why I believe it's better to help people earlier and kind of guide them through a process where they can get to where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and also, I mean, if you just think about it logically, this bullshit about anybody can be anything they want to be and so on. You don't want, if you have to go and see a dentist, you don't want somebody who doesn't really have the capabilities,
Mm-hmm.
or a cardiologist or a brain surgeon or whatever. So we put so much faith and trust into the system that these guys and the little certificate on the wall means that that person has. So fortunately, I think that there are still institutions in place to a large extent that make sure that the people that we trust with those um, kind of
Yeah.
responsibilities have the intellect and so on. But
Yeah.
then, kind of go a little bit. You've been you've been at the mercy of a pilot recently, you know. So
Yeah.
we actually want our pilots to kind of know these things,
Yeah.
um, and then right down to, I don't know, whatever level it is. I want the ambulance driver, the firefighter, the all of these people. I want them to be competent,
Yeah.
um, and well equipped and have the correct IQ level for the job that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously I have this other thing about how is it correct that everybody, irrespective of their IQ, have the same say
Yeah.
in a democracy. Now, I think people will kind of assume that maybe I think I'm more intelligent than the next person. That's not the case. I'm actually saying, hey, listen, I've got opinions,
Mm-hmm.
but if my level of intelligence is not sufficient, then fucking please protect me from myself. Please help me from electing um, an idiot into power.
Yeah.
So it's not just a question of, well, it's definitely not a question of I'm thinking that I'm better than the next person. And I think I've explained that in terms of, you know, you go see a doctor, a dentist, or whoever. Um, and we place a lot of trust in a lot of people. And in the same way, I think on the political front, when it is so easy to talk about democracy, everyone's vote counts, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I think it's so clear that if we just look at what's happening in the world, that is not really the best system. Anyway, a little bit of a tangent to.
Well,
I've
that's what
been
we're here
meaning
to
to.
talk about. We're talking about what you've been thinking about. So
So I've been wondering. I'm going to turn this around a little bit. It's a question I wanted to ask you. Um, since you started your reading habit and zipped through hundreds of books in the last year and a half or so,
yeah.
um, of all the biographies that you read, which one was your favorite?
mm, thinking back. Um, the first book I read in my reading challenge was the Elon Musk, but it's the outdated one. It's not a recent biography.
Okay.
It was from when he started Tesla, basically. Um, I really enjoyed that, like to the point that it had me looking at the price of Teslas and planning to buy one because I
Oh,
thought they
wow.
must be that good because I was really impressed with his philosophies and approach to building and
Oh,
creating
wow.
and I even put one in my cart knowing I couldn't afford it, but I was just like trying to figure out if maybe I could. um,
So, was it because the way that it was written, or was it because there were just so many things about Elon Musk and his brilliance and so
yeah, I
on?
think it was
What
more
it?
about Elon Musk. I did like that, and I think I told you I liked the approach that Elon had said to Ashley Vance. Is that his name? That was that the one? No, that was the. I'm confusing my biographies now. The Steve Jobs one was the one where he said he didn't need to check what he had written. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
this one, it is Ashley Vance. It is, yeah. I just found Elon Musk fascinating and his approach to things and what people say about
Mm,
him and even the dark sides that, the things that people say that they don't like about him, I quite appreciated about him because it felt like he was just
okay.
being authentically himself, um, trying to do something good
Yeah.
or worth it or something that makes a difference to the world, to leave the world in a better place. And yeah, I think I was attracted to Elon Musk, the person,
Okay.
um, from that one. Then I'm just trying to think because I mentioned the Steve Jobs one. I liked that about it that he was. I think because he had been diagnosed and he knew that he was terminal, and he wanted to leave something behind that explained to his children why he was the way that he was. So it was a very authentic account of who Steve Jobs was, the good, the bad, and the ugly, with
Okay.
interviews with people who weren't always very nice about him. Um,
Yeah, sure. Okay. I think you're right. It's important that you always have that kind of balanced view.
yeah,
Um, and it it is. I think that there's a risk in terms of some of the biographies that you see a too one-sided view
mm-hmm.
of the individuals.
Yeah,
Um, I think, especially if we look a little bit further into history, maybe deliberately because it wasn't polite or the right thing to do at the time to talk about I don't know, the whatever habits or negative things, etc., of people, that we have these kind of one-sided views of
yeah,
certain people. So I think of, yeah, maybe even, you know, some of the founding fathers, um, yeah, some of them are actually not such great people,
yeah.
but because of this kind of place in history, we revere them, etc., etc.
Are you thinking of a more
So,
South African example?
uh,
I'll be honest, I haven't read A Long Walk to Freedom,
no, neither have I.
so I don't know what that. I should actually read it. Um, but I have heard from people that Nelson Mandela, obviously a legend in everyone's eyes, has also some dark sides to him that don't get spoken about as
Oh, of course,
frequently. But
of course.
everyone has a dark side, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I appreciate it. Like you said, there's
yeah,
some in the Elon book. There's some dark side stuff, and that to you it just shows he's human,
yeah.
and he doesn't necessarily shy away from those things and so on.
Also, I don't think he would be the legend and
Yes,
amazing person that he is without some of that attitude and way that
correct.
he treats people. And I don't know, there's like you can't you can't be everything to everyone.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
So that kind of ties in nicely with something that I wrote quite a while ago
Mm-hmm.
about approach everything with an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
That was the heading, and I said that history is written by the winners. And we must always look at the other side of the story for a more balanced view. Um, there's much that I thought I understood, only to learn that I don't, at least not well enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that one of the places where that was really evident in fairly recent history was like with the Ukraine conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where you were, etc., you were fed a narrative about who
Yeah.
the aggressor is and what the reason is, etc., etc. And uh, politicians' minds were read, as if they kind of had a direct line in ending in a lot of unnecessary and I think in the end unwelcome um, statements being made.
Mm-hmm.
People lost friends and colleagues and etc. etc.
Yeah.
simply because there was a narrative that they were fed and they
Business.
felt
Yeah.
strongly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
so did you see the Google employees that were terminated yesterday?
no, I didn't. I was traveling yesterday. What happened?
There was it was a smallish group. I don't know all the details, but a smallish group. I don't know, 12 or 18 or whatever, that had a sit-in or a kind of strike at Google's offices, because they felt that Google supports Israel too much.
Mm-hmm.
So they were promptly fired,
Mm-hmm.
um, which,
They must have known
anyway,
going into it that that was a possible outcome.
really.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was just my thinking there is
Mm.
as well. And I try to do that with every position that I take, because like anybody else, I'm very quick to form
Yeah.
an initial opinion about something. Um, but I try to be very balanced in terms of, well, what is the other side of the story?
Yeah.
And if possible, there's also maybe another angle which is um, is not really documented or
Yeah.
hasn't really been looked at. And I sometimes find that fascinating what you uncover if you look at it from different angles.
That's so true. Have you watched All Quiet on the Western Front?
No.
Um, so I just think of that one when I think of the two sides and the good and the bad people because obviously World War II, Germany is the bad guy in everyone's eyes, and Germany is kind of painted. Everyone who was German and everyone who was a soldier for Germany is a bad guy. And All Quiet on the Western Front, I think it was based on a book, and it was first made many years ago, and then it was remade recently. Um, it's in German. You watch it with subtitles, but it's just really nice to see. Well, not nice, but it's just a different perspective to see what the
Yes.
young German soldiers were going through and what they believed they were fighting for, and the moments they realize that maybe they are on the wrong side of
Yeah.
history, and yeah, just it's just also I think a reminder that um, you can't really paint every person that's involved in something with the same
Yeah. Yeah.
brush because of their motivations or their reasons for doing what they're doing. They might be very noble.
But it's so common.
Yeah.
Don't you? It is so common. I mean, even today we sit here and you will hear somebody say, "Oh, the Chinese," like you
Mm-hmm.
personally know all 1.5 billion of them,
Yeah.
or the Indians, or the
Yeah.
whatever nation it is, and you get painted with this um, with this brush. It's I don't know what the solution is to that.
Mm.
Just in general, I think people obviously politicians will use that to kind of garner support or, get people on their side, etc., etc. And there it's a very handy trick and tool to, you know, to create that us versus them, you know.
Yeah.
And the more the more vague you can make the them, the easier it is to paint them in a bad light.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, let me check. When did I write this? I wrote this at the beginning of last year. I said financial advice from someone who stands to gain financially from that advice must be viewed with extreme skepticism.
Yeah.
There are many professional experts that dispense advice on financial matters without even the basic knowledge of the products they advise on. The fact that those they advise, in other words, us, don't understand money and are too lazy to understand, make it easy for them to get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do two things there. I say that most financial advisors are charlatans. Um, and I also say that the average person, including me, is just too lazy to go and understand, and therefore we can we require the services of financial advisors.
Yeah.
But um, but it's definitely something I think that people should pay more attention to.
Yeah. What
There's a,
options do we have though? Because you have to keep your money in an institution. Like you can't do the money under your mattress.
or maybe not all of it, maybe some of
That's I actually had this
it. Maybe we
conversation
are
with my
moving
mom.
to a
Yeah, I had this conversation with my mom last week because she's renting out a property, and I said you must get them to pay you cash, and she's like, but then I won't get any interest on it if I.
yeah.
So yeah.
So no. Look, jokes aside, I fully understand that. Um, but I think the average person can do a little bit
Yeah.
more in understanding what is money, where does it come from, how is it created, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about financial advisors, I talk about people that sell you I don't know, retirement annuity,
Yeah.
an index fund of some
Mm-hmm.
sort, or uh, a policy of some sort, or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, those people are incentivized because they
Mm-hmm.
earn a commission on that, whatever it is. And in the financial industry, I don't know what it's like in the UK. I believe the commissions are much more reasonable,
Mm.
but it's still
The
it
interest is
is
much lower here as well, so you're not really
correct.
making much on your money.
But in terms of where they're supposed to invest, um, but the point is if you any of these financial advisors that sell you a product cannot explain to you. They've got charts because that's what they trained on. They've got charts that they can show you, um, but they cannot tell you exactly where your money is going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really easy to ask them questions that they are not qualified to answer. And I think that there's a danger in that, because if I work hard for my money and I want to do the right thing with it,
Yeah.
um, you know, I want to make sure that I get the correct advice. Now, um, whether that is 10 Rand or R1 million, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. In I want to get the same good advice
Mm-hmm.
when it's a smaller amount um, than the, than I would get when it is a large amount.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like people don't really take it serious enough, even the smaller amounts, to
Yeah.
educate themselves in terms of a few basic things. Um, anyway, I, I think that there are really nice tools available these days um, that actually help people make better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but obviously, things like some of those tools, like for example, Robinhood, etc. Those guys, I mean, they're also a business. Like any of these platforms or apps that you
Yeah.
can save through or buy shares, trade, etc., etc. With, they're all businesses. We must understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, um, there are more options, and one can educate yourself a little bit um, better than I think it
Yeah.
was, I don't know, 20 years ago, for example. Um, don't be afraid of missing out. I wish I could remember the context around some of these things when I wrote it, because this was
Yeah.
a very short one. It just said, don't be afraid of missing out. This applies to all spheres of life. A good example is any form of gambling.
Yeah.
So it leads me to believe that maybe it was the gambling
Yeah.
that made me think.
So I definitely always have that thought. On the plane, they sell scratch cards and they like announce over the thing you could win up to €1 million, and you're supporting charities and whatever. And there's €2.50 for a ticket, and they're walking up and down. And I'm thinking, but what if I got the one ticket that is the €1 million and I'm missing out on this opportunity? I didn't get them because I talked
Okay,
myself out of it. But it is one of those things that I think, like, imagine I buy the ticket that has €1 million.
correct. And it is exactly that mentality
Yeah,
that people walk into a casino with.
yeah,
Imagine I just use my last money to, you know,
yeah.
anyway.
And in
So
this country, I know online gambling is a big problem. A lot of people get addicted to online gambling. It's so easy. Like,
I I will at some point write something about it.
yeah,
Bec- because even here in SA is it has become so easy for people to open an account, download the app, open an account,
mm-hmm,
start betting. You know, you can bet on everything and anything.
yeah.
Um,
You usually
and
win a little bit once or twice in the beginning.
of course you do.
I know from
Of course you
experience.
do. So, but that's really dangerous, and I
Yeah.
think that it is um, irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, who am I to cast moral judgment over what anybody? But you see people who are struggling to make ends meet, but they always buy a lotto ticket.
Yeah.
Um, and now you know that they are betting on their favorite team or whoever to win on the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, look, it's it's not going to end well because
Yeah.
too much of the world is kind of around this thing of how we are amusing ourselves, and it's a great business for somebody,
Yeah.
um, but it is it is not going to. I don't know. I think in 15 or 20 years' time, we're going to look back at this and go, "Wow, we really screwed it up."
Yeah.
When we thought that you know we could just sit and play games and bet on shit all day, and
I feel
somebody
personally
else will
attacked.
Somebody else will make the shoes and the clothes and whatever. And yeah, anyway.
I could probably have
So,
paid off my car if I hadn't bought as many lotto tickets as
really, really,
I'm definitely I'm not as much as I used to. I used to play the lottery when I lived in South Africa, um,
okay,
quite consistently, and I have played the lottery and the Euro Millions a few times since we've lived here. Um, they also get you here because they show you the charities that you're paying towards. So they're like,
correct.
they make you feel like you're doing something good with the
Mm.
chance of potentially winning a lot of money.
They don't, they don't show you what portion of what they take in um, get to the charities
Mm.
and how much they, goes into administrative costs. So let's end on this one.
Yeah.
Um, associate with world-class people.
There's a very similar one here to have interesting and stimulating conversations. Pick the company with circumspect.
Two different things.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so you
Where's
see them as pretty much the same.
well, it's just the one that I was reading as you said
So
that, so I can't find your other one. They're not numbered, so I won't be able to find it. I'm gonna read the rest. Oh, there we go. I found it.
okay. So why do I say it is two different things? I think in general one must try and associate with world-class people, and I I make the point there that you have to search them out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just something that happens by chance. You have to search them out. You have to connect with them, um, and then you also have a responsibility to be world class to those that associate with you. Um, so I just think that that kind of helps elevate all the time. Because what is your your floor versus your ceiling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we kind of aspire to kind of, well, what if we can um, change that so that if I have a different floor, then I will have a different ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And you can think about that in terms of I don't know, various concepts or things where it doesn't have to be just career. It doesn't just have to be in terms of fitness or whatever. Uh, but just in general, um, I think the last point that I might make there is I say walk away, actually run like hell from the ones that do not want the best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is I think we generally hang around people for too long that we know don't want the best for us,
Mm-hmm.
whether that is in a social setting, friendships, colleagues, etc., etc. So I have written about that in slightly different, where we talk about friends, and kind of go through a list, and
Yeah.
I think you and I
Well, you're
discussed that.
you're the average of the five people you spend most of your time with,
That is
or
so
yeah.
true. Yeah, that is so true. You know, so if you spend more time with people who are more successful, have better habits than you, gamble less than you. Um, no, well, pick whatever it is. If I want
Yeah.
to learn more about a particular, then go and find world-class people in that area. Hang out with them and
Mm-hmm.
see what I can learn from them. And then if there's another area, then just nice to say world class. Maybe I can only get in terms of my social circle. maybe I can only get to county level, not world class, but that's okay because from there I can maybe move on to the next level. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Good
I've been
advice.
thinking for this week.
Good thoughts,
So
not
what did
advice.
you what did you say
Now I
that
have to
you
find it
had
again.
the
Mm.
um,
Oh, here we go. To have interesting and stimulating conversations, pick the company with circumspect. So I suppose that's on a much
yes,
smaller scale.
correct. I that was that thought I remember was based on a very specific incident where I kind of made the mistake to think that I could enter into a conversation, um, and I misjudged. I just misjudged in terms of the quality of the conversation that it kind of ended up, and I was very disappointed
I like
uh,
your quote there.
at the end of it.
Never get in a fight with a pig. You'll both get dirty, but the pig will enjoy it.
Exactly, exactly. Who said that? I
It
forget
said
to.
unknown.
Okay. I actually think I know um,
Where you got it from.
where I got it from, but that person also didn't. Um, anyway, stay away from the pigs. Yeah, they will
Okay.
enjoy it.
Well, thank you,
Cool.
Herman. Lots to think about.
Thanks, Ali.
Looking forward to the next
Okay.
one.